Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Ending the Curse podcast. And I am your host, Father Michael Birdsong. Tonight we begin our first and hopefully many sessions, and I have three great friends with me, in which they are also part of the Paranormal Rundown crew. They are Mr. David Griffith, Mr. Verk, Vic Hermanson, and
Burke is
J.J.
okay.
Johnson. But also I have with me my son, Deacon Josh Birdsong. But to kick things off this evening, I would like to read a portion of the Holy Scriptures from the book of Acts in fulfillment of the Old Testament prophet Joel, and this will be our subject for this evening. It says, "In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your young men will see visions, and your old men will dream dreams." So I guess tonight I'm calling the four of us old men. And so our topic for this evening is dreams. What are they for? Are they at times for divine instruction or wisdom? Are they for warnings? Or are they just simply the pizza that you had before you went to bed? So welcome, gentlemen. And I thank you so much for encouraging me to begin this podcast, and I look forward to the many discussions. So, before we go any further, I would just like to hear what each of you have to say about dreams and what do you think they're for? I mean, I have a lot of notes written out, but that really doesn't mean anything. Usually I throw them away. So, but I want to open the floor for each of you and to hear your thoughts and to share certain dreams. And I even have one myself. So let us move forward.
So who's going first?
I think you
There
are.
you
Vic.
go.
I guess I am. Well, that's where I am on the screen, so we'll just go that way. We'll go Vic, Dave, JJ, just because that's the way the screen lays out. At least that's the way my screen lays out. Don't know if everybody was on. First off, that's one of my favorite Bible
Awesome.
verses. There are... See if you understand what I'm talking about here. There's certain Bible verses that are, when you read them, they just have an immediate, deep emotional impact on you. Be still and know
Exactly.
that I am God.
Yep.
That's it. And so if you read that and you don't take a moment to be still and know that He is God, you're not reading your Bible correctly.
Exactly.
At least as far as I'm concerned. But your old men will dream dreams, and what does that mean? Well, it means that I think. There are blessings of getting older. There are many, many problems of getting older. But one of the blessings, I think, is that you've developed enough mental understanding of the world to where your own mind and its interaction with the divine can teach you something. So like I told you before, I don't ever have nightmares in terms of Godzilla trying to get me, or anything like that. Never have had a monster or anything trying to get me in a dream. The only time I have a bad dream is when there's some subtle change in reality that everybody seems to know about, and I'm not in on the secret. It's like the Twilight Zone. Those are my bad dreams. But throughout my life, I guess I've had a handful of dreams that really seem to be purposeful. Now, I know I've had a bunch of dreams that I think I put in the pizza category, of just, this is just silly. I know I've had a lot of anxiety dreams, where it's the last day of class, the last day of semester. We're having a final test. I've never been to a single class. I haven't turned in my homework. I haven't done any studying. I don't know anything. And I'm just sitting there pounding myself as to, how could you be so stupid? How could you do something like that? But the dreams that I have had that taught me something are the ones that have really stuck with me over the years.
How so?
Um, well, one of them seems silly, and it's not exactly biblical or anything like that. But I was building a complex simulation model. Uh, I was working in a zone where I didn't really have the knowledge to work in that zone yet. But that's how you get the knowledge, is you go
Hmm.
do things you don't know how to do. And I was just having so much trouble solving this one problem. And so I have this dream, and I remember it visually. It's a beautiful dream. I'm in a doctor's office. It's like in the TV movies, there's a desk and the doctor's on the other side of the desk, and he's central casting doctor, with the gray hair around his ears, and he's, got his lab coat on. And he's got these big, beautiful hands, and he says, "Well, hi, Mr. Lang. I'm really glad you came in. I've got some bad news and I've got some good news for you." And I said, "Okay, well, let's have the bad news first." And he said, "Well, Mr. Lang, I'm sorry to tell you, but you have glioblastoma multiforme."
What'd you just call me?
And you have glioblastoma multiforme. And you probably only have a couple of months to live if you're lucky. And he said, "Look, there are experimental treatments, but you might as well just get your affairs in order. But the good news is I figured out your model problem." And and so he goes over to the whiteboard on the wall, and he starts laying out the code as to what I have to do in order to fix this model problem. So after the dream's over, wake up, and I'm thinking about what he's laid out as the code. Go get on my computer, code it in.
There you
Dang it,
go.
it works. It works.
And you
I would have
immediately,
went
when
to
it was
physical.
done,
Exactly.
went and got an MRI.
Exactly.
When it got an MRI.
That's what I was going to say. Okay, this worked. It's time for me to go see Doc and get checked out.
Well, no, I should have, but I didn't go get an MRI. So anyway, I guess I think of that as my mind. I don't know why my mind told me I had GBM. That's not a good thing for my mind to do. But I am glad that it figured out that problem. I've had exactly one dream each about my mother and father since they died. The one about my mother was very peaceful. It was very, not necessarily uplifting, but it left me feeling as if that soul is
Mhm.
okay. That soul is fine. The one I had about my father was horrific. He was sitting across the room from me, just glaring at me. Glaring like you would glare at someone who you absolutely despise. And I even remember in that dream thinking, this is very unpleasant. You should wake up. But there was also a part of me that was thinking, why is he glaring at me like that? When my father died, I wasn't aware of there being any of that kind of
Well,
enmity.
that's what I was going to ask.
So-
I mean, did y'all have a good relationship or a strained relationship?
Well, we had throughout most of my life a pretty strained relationship. He could be very abusive, but as I had children, he became a different person. I mean, he was a very, very different kind of grandfather than he was a father. And I think that when he died, there was essential peace and trust
Good.
between us. So the fact that he was sitting there glaring at me like that just absolutely left me baffled and also extremely unhappy. And then one of the other few dreams I can remember was when I was staying with a friend in Louisville, and I had to sleep on their couch. And so I'm sleeping on the couch, and in my dream, I'm sleeping on the couch, and around me, around the couch, are all of these people, and they're people that have been part of my life, and I know these people, and they're chanting at me. they, they're wearing, long, dark black robes, chanting. If I were a movie-going man, I'd probably say this was a satanic
Right.
ritual going on. But what they had to say really wasn't satanic at all. It was just a matter of, the main thing they said was, we're all here now, but some dreams are gone. You need to pay attention. And that dream stuck with me.
Vic, are you there? Vic?
Okay, now, I can't make any promises that Xfinity won't mess up again.
What if they do? We can
We'll just
start over.
We'll just
again.
keep going, do the best
There
we
you
can.
go.
Before I was attacked by the technology demons that attack everybody at some point or another, I was talking about a dream that I had about sleeping on a couch at a friend's house and then having people in dark robes chanting around me, holding their arms in the air. Very much like what you would see in a Rosemary's Baby kind of movie or something.
Right.
But it didn't feel sinister at all. In fact, it's a dream that I've always taken some comfort from. Now, I wish that I had the dreams that I think the Bible is talking about. I'm not too far away from being an old man. Some would already consider me that, and I would like to have the dreams that God wishes such men to have, but so far I don't seem to have that blessing.
Well, for me personally, Vic, this is, and I'm getting way ahead of myself, but I might as well go ahead and open the can of worms. I don't discount anything. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that we're going to have dreams that came from the pizza we ate last night, okay? I know that we're going to be affected by our daily lives. I know that we're going to be affected by our emotions and wearies and stuff like that. And those of us that maybe can remember our dreams, I mean, as far as I go, I can tend to separate them. But also, there are dreams where we are giving, or excuse me, where we have been given divine inspiration, and sometimes dreams are absolutely biblical, scriptural, and of God. And sometimes they bring comfort, sometimes they bring warning, sometimes they bring instruction, sometimes they bring wisdom. So I would not discount yourself and say that you haven't had a dream from God, because it sounds like to me that you have. And so, but at any rate, you were going to go into another one.
No, that's pretty much my
Okay.
list of dreams. Sorry, I wasn't planning on talking there. Let me finish eating this cracker.
Oh, you eat that cracker. I might join you with a cracker after a while myself.
Oh
I
man,
tell you, if
sorry
you want,
about that.
Well, Vic's eating his cracker. I'll give you my thoughts.
Go ahead.
I'm going to pass the floor to Dave.
So, I have had, I've had different types of dreams all my life. I now dream. I'm pretty sure I have somewhere between 3 and 5 dreams a night.
And you remember those? You know you
When
do?
I first wake up, I'll remember
Wow.
them in the order that they happen. I can at least remember the last 3. Now,
I can't do that.
I don't focus on it,
Do that.
right?
Yeah.
Because I've determined that the vast majority of these dreams are irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
They are just my mind working through stuff in its downtime, whether it's entertaining itself or it's working through a problem or whatever. They don't have any significant meaning. Most of my dreams, I don't know anybody in them. They don't take place in any place I've ever been. They occur with events that I've never experienced. And, you know, sometimes there will be somebody I know in them or someplace I've been, but it's rare. The majority of them are just meaningless gibberish, right? To me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't try to remember them beyond that. But every now and then I'll have one that feels different. It's more intense. It has a seriousness to it. Uh, when I wake up from those, they stand out. And usually those I will either try to remember or I'll write down.
Yeah.
And those dreams usually happen when I have some type of serious stress going on.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're relevant to that. And I don't, you know, I don't try to have those dreams. They just happen.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes just having that dream is enough to make me aware that I'm going through something that I wasn't realizing was as serious as it is.
There's an issue going on. Yeah.
For example,
Yeah.
if I am under extreme stress and there's a lot of unknowns in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I will inevitably have some type of natural disaster dream. Now, I currently live near the ocean. Those dreams tend to be tidal wave ocean dreams, right? When I lived in California, they were earthquake dreams, right? It's not that I was afraid of there being an earthquake. I've been through earthquakes and you just live with them out there. It's, you know, the majority of them are just, you know, background noise.
And see, I would call that divine inspirational dreams.
Could be, could be. But it only happens
When there's something.
when I when when I feel like life is stressful and
Exactly.
and more specifically out of control, right? Because a natural disaster is not something you can control, and therefore it's telling me, it's going, yeah, you know what? You need to figure some stuff out because you got too many balls up in the air, you're juggling too hard, you're doing something, you got to get some control on stuff. Now, whether that's divine intervention or just my brain going, hey, I'm overtaxed, you
Yeah.
need to sort some stuff out, I don't know.
Well, I would call it divine inspiration on two levels, and I mean, okay. Here's the reason why I say I would put it on two levels. Number one, we have things that happen in the natural, and whatever happens in the natural, okay, also affects the spiritual. And so when you have dreams like that, there's no doubt that number one you are, but the spiritual realm is affecting the natural realm and bringing instruction to you and saying this is what is going on and this is how you need to handle it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, except most of my dreams very rarely tell me how to handle anything.
But no. Well, even if you don't get an answer, you are getting, well, you are getting an answer. Even though you may not be getting instruction, you're getting an answer saying yes, this is real. Okay, number one, and and it's something that we can work on. And see, that's the whole reason why I wanted to do this is because there's all types of dreams, and some of them are nothing. But what I wanted us to see tonight is sometimes there's dreams to where we are giving divine inspiration, instructions, or wisdom. Because Freud would say we're all crazy as well.
Right.
Let me stop there. But but you understand what I'm talking about there. I mean,
Well, are you talking about Freud looking at everything mechanistically, atheistically?
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, some people say that they're nothing. you know. And well,
Well, there's
I can go ahead and tell you guys the notes that I sent out. Just throw them away. But there's lucid dreams. There's nightmares, so to speak, and there's why do we dream topics. How long do dreams last? There's all kind of stuff. What do they mean? There's all kind of subjects, but what matters the most is that as far as I am concerned, and you guys know my background, it's just my personal opinion, and that's why I wanted you guys here tonight. That yes, sometimes the dreams can be the pizza. But sometimes the dreams, I would dare say that sometimes a dream could actually save your physical life.
I'd like to hear about that.
Well, all right. I will share this, but I really want to, on one of our last sessions, I don't even think we recorded it, but JJ mentioned a dream, and I really want him to bring that forward because I think it's very important for this podcast. But I've had a few dreams in my own lifetime that where I was going to be going somewhere the next day, and in the dream, Christ would appear to me and say, "Don't do that."
Oh, okay.
And then to come find out that that some of the people that I would have been traveling with were in a terrible car accident. So we have proof there. But another dream that I had that I believe is how I wound up to be the person I am today, and I would really love to hear JJ's explanation on this because he's going to love it. I believe that I know Lilith firsthand. And I shared this with you and Dave maybe a week ago. But I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I was dreaming in this white, solid white, long white hair. At that point in time, the only thing that I could reckon it to was a witch. I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But in my bedroom, the wind was blowing. And she was coming toward me to where the point to where she had her hands outstretched like so, like she was about to choke me to death. And I started screaming and then woke myself up. Mm-hmm. But even after I woke up, she was still there.
Doing the same.
Like? She was solid white.
Well, what age was she?
What age? She looked to be, I'm going to say 50s, 60s.
Okay. That's a little anachronistic then. Not saying it couldn't be. The wind most certainly does kind of give it away. But typically, what we think of as Lilith now was originally one of 3 Akkadian wind goddesses: Lilu, Lilith, Lilu, Lila, and Wadu, Lilith. Uh-huh. And the last one is where the night hag came into play, which eventually in Midrash became Adam's first wife.
Right.
But she was the spirit which was most associated with wanton or illegal sexuality, and was most typically depicted as a a woman on the cusp of womanhood. I'll put it that way.
Okay. All right.
But
So
she's
that would have been
also
much younger.
But she's
Yeah.
also described in, I mean, the references that she has in the Hebrew Bible is she's always referred to as the arrow that
Okay.
flieth by night.
Well, it was. I mean, the funny thing about it, the whole situation, is that was when I was 7 or 8, but now I'm 54, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, my bedroom, it was like there was big industrial fans in there, and then I see this woman coming to strangle me. But of course, in the dream and when I woke up, she was all white. So there's not a whole lot of features. I
Did
don't
she
know.
actually put her hands on you?
No, no, absolutely not. Uh,
Then you're lucky.
yeah, and that I believe is what set the course for my entire life to be who the person I am today. Because you guys have heard me say it many times. Not today, not on my watch. If I can help it, that'll never happen to anyone. Because that was very traumatic to me as a young kid. And that's the reason why I remember it today, because it was so traumatic.
How did you handle that afterward? Were there support structures for you that you could turn to?
Man, I was 7 or 8 years old, and that part I don't remember. But I do know there was a time, a long period of time, to where if I didn't see some kind of light in my bedroom, it was over.
You weren't
And-
sleeping in that bedroom without the light.
Exactly.
I understand that.
Not the main light, but
Yeah, a nightlight.
I mean, even if I had to open the curtains and let in the street light, I had to have something, and I don't think it coincidence that I had to turn toward the light.
Oh no, I don't either.
Now think about that deeply, but it was a very traumatic experience, and see, that's the reason why I think sometimes people downplay dreams. Sometimes they're reasoned away. Sometimes they're explained away by people who don't know what the heck they're talking about. And but I'm of the persuasion that I think God gave us the wisdom to know the difference of dreams, no matter how you want to call them, no matter what label you want to put upon them. I think He gave us the wisdom to understand what meat to eat and what bones to spit out.
Well, I wanted to say something a few minutes ago, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I mean, you said many people now think of dreams as being nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, essentially detritus. Just the debris that builds up in your brain and your mind all day long, and your brain does something with it while you're sleeping, taking out the garbage. Well, there's a whole very powerful neurological movement now that seems to me to very much want to degrade mankind. I mean, the idea is that mankind does not have free will. That's a very, very common argument now.
Excuse me?
It is. It's a very common argument among a certain group of philosophers and neurologists, saying that mankind does not have actual free will, that free will is an illusion, and that nothing that happens in man's mind is of any consequence. And of course, the idea is among this group also that anytime a man has or human has any sort of feeling of divine connection, that's a hallucinatory illusion that our brain is designed to create. I find these people difficult to carry on conversations with. It's like carrying on a conversation with a really angry, dogmatic anti-theist. They don't really want to listen to opposing opinions. Can you guys hear me?
Can now. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a small blip there, but now I can hear you fine.
But anyway, it doesn't surprise me that that group would also be downplaying the importance of human dreams.
Well, you have the opposite too. You have the sort of new age view,
Yes.
which is that your dreams are telling you everything about your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that, there are, entire books out there all over the place about interpreting dreams. And I think that so many of our dreams, well, I know it in my experience, I think that they don't have a whole lot of meaning. But you have a lot of people that every dream is something.
Well, yes. I mean, I kind of have trouble going to that extreme also.
Yeah. No, I agree. The answers always lie somewhere in the middle, right?
That just always lies somewhere in the middle.
Well, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
There we go with the wind again.
And another song from Father Mike. So,
Well, look, I've talked now to easily a dozen, 15 people who've had these dreams that persist after waking. Okay, they wake up, that thing which they are dreaming about is there in the room with them. I've never experienced that at all.
Be thankful for that. It's not fun.
that is a experience that David and I would probably tell you that you never want to experience.
I haven't asked for it, that's for sure.
You do not, well, I don't wish that on anybody. And some people would label that as a quote unquote night terror.
Yes, yeah.
I don't buy that BS. But
Yeah, I don't count those as dreams.
that is an experience that is what the psalmist would say a night vision. And some people say, well, when the Bible, I hope JJ don't jump on me here, but when the Bible talks about dreams and night visions, I believe those are two separate things. And like I said, that's just my personal opinion.
I don't even think of it as, I don't know how you would define a night vision, but the ones that I have, some of them I physically interacted with something. I had physical effects the next day.
Like what?
I can't hear you, Father Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. And see, I would not call that a dream. I mean, if you
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
If you are physically experiencing it, well, I don't have enough education to speak on that subject, so I'll just let that part go. But I think there's times where there is a total difference between a dream and a night vision. And sometimes I believe that, okay, well, all right, let me break it on down. I hate to bring it up, but we're all men, and please cut this out. But I'm sure that when we were in our prepubescent years, there comes a times where you have wet dreams.
Oh, that
That's
wasn't just
to-
that
that's
wasn't
to-
just that
that's
wasn't just
total
prepubescent.
different.
I think that stopped somewhere around age 40 or something. But
There you go. But you understand what I'm saying? That's totally different.
yeah,
So
but there.
that's
But I
why
have
say
known
that-
people. I have known people who have perceived that particular thing as being somehow sinful. You know,
As what?
as being look. There are people who definitely suffer from, I guess what you call scrupulosity, where they can sort of find and perceive sin in just about everything. They're so, for instance, in the ER, you would occasionally get some young Catholic girl who definitely had some mental issues going on, who perceived the fact that she was going through a period as a sinful thing. And you would, these nurses would try to talk to them. Look, this is just your body eliminating material it no longer needs. It's, this is your body keeping itself healthy. But they had a hard time sometimes incorporating that into their view of the world. And I've seen young men who thought that the fact that they were having these dreams, nocturnal emission kind of dreams, was a sinful thing.
Wow. And see, that's where the churches hurt a lot of people.
Well,
Well, I
it's
mean-
better than how Zoroastrians treat women on their periods.
All right, keep going.
No,
Yeah,
they would confine them to sheds, barns, force them to bathe in cow urine
Cow urine.
in order to, quote unquote, purify them. Oh, yeah.
Sounds pleasant.
All right, I've got a Victor question. I'm sorry, but look, you guys have known me long enough to know that these questions.
Cow urine?
Where do you get enough cow urine to take a bath in?
I have no bloody idea.
Yeah, who gets stuck with that job, right? I'm gonna. Okay,
I'm thinking
collecting.
I'm thinking of the guy with the bucket, just kind of, come on, bossy. I mean,
just following the cows around.
Following the
Wait, what's
cows
he
around.
doing out there in that field? Oh, he's collecting the cow urine.
Well, I guess when you go out to milk the cow, you take 2 buckets.
take 2 buckets.
One for underneath
look.
and one for at the end.
These questions always come up in my mind. And look, I know I'm going off base, but I was working at a hospital in Texarkana where they've got all these hunters, and the administrator of the hospital was, "Oh, Vic, we got to go hunting someday. You got to come out." And he said, "You know what? This is the best possible day to go hunting because the wind's from the north, and I've got a full batch of badger urine."
Okay.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
And I was just thinking, how do you get badger urine? I'm just,
They
I don't-
collect deer urine and sell it too.
I
Yeah.
would love to see the person that grabs that badger when that badger got through with him.
but look, I'm sorry to have taken the show someplace. it
No,
shouldn't
that's
have
funny. That's who we are, man. I love it. I love it.
Can I interject?
Yes.
gone. Always.
So, I think I am radically different than everyone else that has spoken before. I would say 98% of all of my dreams are nightmares and has been for as long as I can remember. And my mom is the same way, and my grandmother before her. We have always been cursed with horrific nightmares. Although my mom's typically revolves around human assailants, people breaking in, trying to murder the family, etc. Mine have been around monsters and demons, etc.
So for you, a pleasant dream or even a neutral dream is something that is rare.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, so I would say I've had 4 types of dreams in my life. Well, 4 different categories I can divide them into. When I was very young, so all of my dreams are in vivid color, always has been. but yet I would have the occasional dream which was only in black and white. And these are always prophetic in nature.
That's
And
interesting.
nothing dynamic, I mean nothing like earth shattering. But I remembered I had a dream, and how I am pictured in my dream is radically different than how I look in reality. But
JJ,
I was
JJ, let me interrupt you right there and make one very quick comment that I hope everybody picked up on, because this is the purpose of the whole podcast. You said that we're prophetic in nature. And that's the point that I want to point out, that sometimes our dreams are that dang important.
But for this, it was always my idealization of how I look, running around a cactus pot and falling in and getting injured. And a week later, that exact scenario happened. I was at my great aunt's house. She had a huge metal rim wheel thing and had a huge cactus in the middle of it. And I fell over into it and got like 50 pins in me and had to get them all plucked out, which was a fun experience.
I bet that felt real good, didn't it?
Oh yeah. But those have not surfaced after my teenage years. And even if I couldn't remember the dream, I would always have these severe recollections of deja vu. I know this has happened. I know what's going to happen, and it wouldn't. So that's those are very rare, but those were early on dreams. The others, I have died in. I've died numerous times in my dreams, although I have not felt pain. Like my body would know you should be experiencing pain here, but there would always be a curious lack of any sensation that came from that. Like one time I was in a post-apocalyptic world in armor, going around with a team trying to exterminate monsters, and a monster blasted me with a breath weapon, and I dissolved into goo. And that was the nicest death I've had. But others, I have been gnawed apart by zombies. Yeah, I won't go into detail, but they're not the most pleasant thing. The
So
third is
you're being blasted by level 72 repeating death weapons.
pretty much,
Death
yeah.
breath weapons. So, okay.
The third type are just normal nightmares. Like, for example, I had one the other night which was a combination where I had re-enrolled into graduate school, and
Oh yeah.
That's a
That's
nightmare.
that's a
within
nightmare in itself.
JJ.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
and I had not done any of the homework, and I didn't even know when the finals were going to be
Or
taking
where the damn
place.
classroom was, or
Exactly. But then it switched to I was driving in a car, and my mom was driving, my wife was in the passenger seat. And we were going around this very curvy road, and my mom was going a little fast, but nothing bad. And then suddenly there were a huge group of people in the middle of the road, and they began screaming, "You're going to hit us! You're going to hit us!" And she was able to brake all of a sudden and avoid them all. But after passing the group and them still screaming at her, we came upon a police cruiser parked in the middle of the road, collecting a bloody body into a body bag, who had been hit. And it kind of reminded me when I had to sweep blood off the road after a drunk driving incident of someone else on our street. But yeah, so I mean, tension ridden, but nothing horrible. But then I've had the dreams that have affected me, and long after I have had them. I had a trio of
Continue on.
dreams. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, please continue with that.
Oh, so I had a trio of dreams when I was in college, and to this day, I call them my trilogy of evil dreams. In one, which was the shortest, I actually don't remember the third because the other two were so kind of powerful. I just remember I had it. But the first one, a undead revenant and dressed in tattered black cloth had taken my dream self up into the sky and showed me the end of the world, and was indicating all of the faults and failures that I have ever done, which would help to contribute to the scene of devastation that I was witnessing. And at the end, he alighted me to the top of a hill and began laughing.
You're a maestro of bad dreams, JJ.
I've had my brain has apparently had a lot of promise in that regard.
He's a definite connoisseur.
And then the second one was I was in a featureless gray city on a roof atop a skyscraper, and I was hiding. And I didn't know what from until I glanced it from the side of my eye, and it was a giant anthropomorphic crow.
Okay.
And I could see its eyes, and the eyes had literal swirls of madness inside them. And it was dragging behind it a pair of giant scissors that were the size of great swords. And they were rusty and pitted, and this thing caught me. And it began screeching in a language that I knew, but I didn't know. And then it opened the scissors and was about to decapitate me. And I woke up. But not before remembering some of the blasphemies that it was trying to speak from its throat.
Well, these are horrifying, extremely sophisticated dreams.
Yeah, and they have stuck with me ever since. But then there are also the dreams in which border on reality, or where reality intrudes. And these are the ones that are the most frightening. When I was living in a suburb of Nashville, I was at that borderline of falling asleep. I may have been asleep, I may not. But there was a hag dressed in ancient Victorian clothing, huge, voluminous, and it was trying to make deals for my soul.
With you or
With me.
With you.
With him, yeah.
Do you remember what the offer was?
No, I do not. And the offers, I have always suffered from this syndrome. I've spoken about it much to my chagrin on my podcast in one episode. But yeah, and they're always usually inconsequential. They're never for riches. It's always for, I bet you can't, throw that Coke can into the trash can and get it in.
Utterly trivial things.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But
JJ, what? Please feel free to argue the point and correct me if you think I'm way off base. But listening to each one of these dreams, it kind of firms up to me that within your personal life, and especially in the life of the Church Catholic, your one of your main callings is to the office of a demonologist, because you would not, in my opinion, be having these dreams if you were not gaining knowledge from them. Does that make sense?
It does, and it very well could be. I mean, I've always been drawn to the topic, and my
Right.
feet were placed upon the path of studying the Hebrew Bible, Semitic philology, and the only person that I was aware of in my program, at least, that wanted to study angelology and demonology.
There you go. And I believe, although these dreams may be very unpleasant, but they may be I hate to say it, a gift of wisdom, even though you're going through the trauma of having the dreams.
Well, I will tell you this. So there was one dream which was radically different than all the rest. And it was a good dream. I dreamed I was in
Okay.
a cabin by a lake. It was a dark room lit by candles. And I was with a woman with raven black hair. I never saw the face, but I felt such overwhelming love. Like, it was a deep, burning love combined with that kind of initial puppy love you get when you are in a relationship,
Right.
all combined together. And I had never felt anything like that before. And I was the most sad individual when I woke up and realized that that person did not exist or was not there with me. I was inconsolable for weeks after that. And when I met my wife, I got the same feeling again. And it was on first sight. It was not, oh, let's get to know each other. No, no, no. It was immediate. And I knew. And
Well, I got to ask the question, what color hair does your wife have?
Raven
Okay,
black.
that's what I thought.
In fact,
That's
from
what
that
I
ve-
thought.
From that very first encounter,
Yeah.
that's what I remember. Her raven hair shining in the moonlight.
So guys, do you understand why I wanted to cover this topic?
Absolutely.
To bring forth the fact that it's not always the pizza you eat, and regardless of what science would say, there's
Well,
such
so
always.
let me say
a
one
different-
last
yeah,
thing.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I agree with exactly what Dave was saying, and what Vic was saying earlier. At least, I mean, to me, dreams are by and far a product of the mind recycling concepts and ideas. It could be because you're just trying to entertain itself, or it could be, and this is what I've always kind of thought, even though I have no scientific basis of saying this, is once an idea is about to leave either short or medium term memory, then it gets recycled. And dreams is a great flushing mechanism in order to get those things out. Could be. Who knows? But I've had a lot of different dreams which are simply that. They are the mind playing with itself. And, even though they may be horrific in nature, at least for me, you know exactly what they are. But then I have had dreams which tell a complete story, like story in which I would have to actually consciously attempt to write, much more coherent than what I would think a dream would be. But let me ask everybody on the panel this, because I'm really curious.
Okay.
Have you ever read in a dream?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and that's one of the interesting things that I have heard. I mean, you hear these little pearls of wisdom from people like, you can't read in a dream. You can't do math in a dream. All dreams are black and white.
I dream in color a lot.
I dream in very vivid
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
And I know I have read in dreams because that's what the dream was about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've done math in dreams.
Okay, I'm glad y'all said
So
that because
so
I have.
I've
Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
well, I was gonna say I dream in color as well, and I think I've read in dreams, but I don't recall what I read. I just know I read as a part of the activity that was in the dream, but I don't think I dreamed the actual reading of the words.
I
If
dream.
that makes sense.
I dream of reading literature that doesn't exist.
Well, sometimes for me, I will be dreaming of bringing the word of the Lord for the Sunday morning that I'm going to be preaching
Yeah.
and be reading the scriptures that I hadn't even looked at all week long. And then those are the dreams that I will force myself to wake up from if I can. There's been so many times I've failed at doing it, but those are the dreams that I will try to force myself to get up and write it down and then get it ready because that was the definite word of the Lord for this specific season, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I don't think that you could reason that away. Just as much as I don't think you could reason away JJ dreaming of this raven-haired woman and then marrying her. That's not pizza. He never met her. For crying out loud. So, you know, that's just my argument in the whole podcast, that sometimes it's not just to say that it is a mind thing all the time. I would disagree with that. What I would say is sometimes, just sometimes, David, a spiritual thing.
Oh, I agree. JJ, finish your thought on that. I didn't mean to cut you off,
Oh,
but then I want to
no.
ask a question.
Yes, please. I'm sorry.
No, so I have physically read in dreams before, but it was never in English.
Oh
It was
really?
always
Okay.
Oh,
in
wow.
the language that I happened to have been studying.
You happen to be studying at the time.
Yeah, and usually
That's cool.
whenever I would dream I was reading, it was always in Hebrew. But I could clearly see all of the characters. I knew exactly what word it was. Yeah, so that's why I've always kind of challenged that supposition. Have y'all seen the television series Evil?
Evil. Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
seen.
I
I saw it a long time ago, but I haven't watched the whole thing.
I love it. It's a really smartly done show.
It sounds
don't-
familiar. What does it come on?
It's on Paramount Plus now, but it was on CBS.
Okay.
But I mean, it's well done. I mean, don't go looking for meaning in it. Don't go looking for lore. But
Right.
if you're just looking for a well done set of stories, it's good. But
I'm
one of
always looking for
the-
something to waste my time with. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But one of the plot points of one of the episodes was that they said, "Oh, you can't read in your dreams." So, and that's why, you know. And then she was able to awaken, recognize what this thing was because she couldn't read. Blah blah blah. But yeah, I've always found that to be inaccurate. So
Well,
that's
so-
what I wanted to ask.
So that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to ask about is also in that she had the idea of wearing this rubber band around her wrist so that she would snap it and know that she was awake. But in
Right.
her dreams, it wouldn't be there or something like that. It's been a while since I watched it, but it was a way for her to recognize that she was in a dream and not in waking life.
Right. And I mean, that is a solid principle for those who want to be able to recognize if they're in dreams. If you remember back to the Star Trek The Next Generation, when everyone was called in a dream, and then it took the second in command realizing that, oh, I always see the moon out the window. And that was his visual cue of, if I see the moon, then I know I'm dreaming.
Right.
Yeah, but I've never been one who's ever been able to lucid dream, not
So
once.
neither have I. And one of the reasons that I remember my dreams so well is because I spent time trying to learn how to lucid dream. And part of the steps on that in books that I read was, as soon as you wake up, you start trying to recount your dreams so that you can remember your dreams. I think that's why I remember my dreams so well, is I used to practice that specific. I used to log them, and then it just became a recounting them a couple of times after I woke up, and I can remember my dreams. But I could never make that leap from remembering it after the fact to recognizing I was lucid dreaming, or dreaming so that I could lucid dream.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. Well, that and the how quickly a dream can fade from active memory is one of the most disturbing sensations I can remember.
Yeah.
Because you wake up, you have it firmly in your head, you're able to replay it. If you happen to fall back asleep, you can go immediately back into it.
Right.
Although I rarely want to. But then let's say that you want to hang on to it, and then something distracts you, and 2 minutes later you go back.
And it's gone.
It's
It's
gone.
gone.
Yeah.
And you
Yep.
can feel it just fading. I've always hated that more than anything.
Well, I can even consciously say to myself, I'm going to remember this dream, and continue to think about it, and
Yep.
it
And
still
forget it. when
and
you
it still
wake up.
disappears.
Yep. Yep.
Very
Yep.
frustrating.
Let me read you guys this. Now, this is according to experts, okay? And this goes on the idea of JJ having nightmares and so on and so forth. But also since JJ brought up Star Trek earlier, the whole dream thing is, are we in the life of the Borg? Did that just go over all your heads?
No, it didn't go over my head.
No.
I'm just trying to get my mind around it. Are we?
In the life of the Borgs, in one central.
Oh well,
Oh, you
yeah.
gonna say, are we in a hive mind?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought maybe you were saying, no, are we just dreams dreamt by the Borg?
Oh, no, are
Sorry,
we in
I
the
was trying
hive?
to
There
figure
you
it out
go.
myself.
All right, but this says experts say if you have a certain nightmare over and over again, your subconscious may be trying to tell you something. Listen to it. If you can't figure it out while you're having bad dreams, talk to a mental health provider. You're right.
Right.
Sometimes they're just as crazy as we are. They may be able to help you figure out what's causing your nightmares and give you tips to put it at ease. Keep in mind, now see, this is, God help me not to go crazy.
Too late.
Hello. You are absolutely right there, Vic.
Sorry about that.
No, you're absolutely right. Talk to a mental health care provider. Oh my God. They may be able to help you figure out what's causing your nightmares and give you tips to put you at ease. Keep in mind, and this is the part that I have at the end of the notes that I don't agree with. Keep in mind that no matter how scary a nightmare is, it is not real and most likely won't happen to you in real life. Now, see, there's times where I do not agree with that.
It says most likely. They're
Well,
hedging.
but see, when it comes to, we know what most likely means, David.
Yeah.
Come on, man. But see, the point is that everything that I'm listening to tonight, and I'm not taking anything away from JJ because I want him to continue, But everything that we're listening to tonight debunks every bit. Well, I'm not going to say every bit. That's stretching it. But it debunks a lot of medical science on dreams.
Well, I think the reality is science has no clue
Exactly.
when it comes to dreams.
Exactly.
And I think Vic would probably agree with this, but you'll have to give your opinion, Vic. But I think
I would love
science
to hear Vic's
has
opinions.
very
Yeah.
little clue what's actually happening with any kind of consciousness within our brain at all.
Well, they have thoughts and theory,
Exactly.
thoughts and hypotheses. Nobody, I believe,
Hypothesis is a key word there.
nobody has ever even brought something up to the level of an actual theory.
Right.
But if someone says to you, "I know what consciousness is," they are lying.
Absolutely.
And dreams are a part of consciousness.
Definitely.
So they don't know. And
It's kind of like the old cliche where someone says, "I understand what you're thinking." No, hell, you don't.
Well, let me ask y'all this, because I'm curious if I might be the only one or not. And as I'm the outlier, I don't doubt it. Do y'all have a similar place where your dreams, the vast majority of your dreams take place?
No.
my dreams occur all over the place, and like I said, the majority of that is places I've never been.
JJ is well. I've been having this occurring dream, and when I say reoccurring dream, I mean for the last 6 months, several nights, and it's always in the same place. I'm standing in a field, and just all of a sudden, I just start levitating.
Oh,
and
that's
just,
great. I
And
mean,
just shoot up into the sky.
is that a
And then I
pleasant?
wake up. No, you know, it's very pleasant. But I just shoot up into the sky like I'm flying. I'm like, okay, why am I flying? And it, like I said, it's not been a one-time deal. It's been several times.
Does it vary at all?
Everything is the same,
Okay, beginning to end.
beginning to end.
See,
And
the reason
JJ,
I
are
was-
you saying that your stuff always occurs in the same location?
No, it follows a pattern, but the location is never the same. There are always places I've never been ever, but it's either almost always in a school or a hotel, or sometimes it morphs into a mall. But it's always in a large public place where people live either temporarily or semi-permanently.
I gotta ask,
I think
Father Mike.
Yes.
So, well, before
Go for it.
I do this, JJ, you said your family members have similar dreams.
They all, almost everyone, at least on my mom's side, has always been infected with nightmares.
On your mom's side, but not your
may
dad's
kn-
side.
I may know where you're going with this, Dave.
I don't
but
know
go ahead.
anything about my dad's side of the family, but even my son, when he was young, he had the most horrific night terrors I have ever seen a kid go through.
wow, which would be very painful to watch.
Did they
It breaks your heart.
continue on as he got older and just not as severe?
We haven't really discussed his dreams as of late, but they have calmed down a good bit.
So, the reason I ask, I mean, that's how you started out when you were explaining this, when you were going to say you had nightmares all the time. was that your family members had the same thing. I mean, is it possible that this is a family curse?
Well, see, do you remember me just saying I know where you're going
Yeah.
with this? Okay, that's exactly where you just went. And in the background, I was telling Josh to find the scripture for me.
If you
Uh,
remember, in one of our conversations, I think this
hmm
was on a rundown, I said that one of the things that terrifies me the most is this idea of curses
and
and something out of our control that someone can place on us, or even a generation or more before us.
right.
That is, but it happens. That's scary stuff.
Well,
It is, but honestly, if I really found out that this was a generational curse that I have inherited, I'd probably have to thank them for it at the end of the day. Like my
well,
dreams are
you got a point
terrifying,
there.
but
Yeah.
they have become one of the defining features of my psyche, which oddly
Well,
enough.
but see, JJ, that is the sovereignty and the divinity of God turning this curse around. Because the scripture tells us that the sins of the fathers will be cast forward to the first, second, and even third generation. Josh is looking up the exact scripture for me right now. But however, there comes a time where someone says, "Okay, enough is enough," and I believe that person that would say enough is enough is you right now, because you have taken this this curse of original sin and the sins of the generations, and saying, "Okay, I get it," so to speak. All right, so now let's end it. Let's learn from it, and let's use it for glory instead of cursings.
Well, I will say that my grandmother was visited by what she claimed was the devil.
I don't doubt that. Yeah,
Maybe it came from there.
In a dream or in
No, in
waking
real
life?
life.
yeah, I don't doubt that.
But I've had my great great grandmother strangled by a spirit while staying in the graveyard once. But my family's had a very long history of brushes with the odd. I'll put it that
Well, I
way.
mean, your family's had a long history of very heavy brushes with the horrific,
Yeah, they
with
really have.
with the terrifying.
But is all this in Tennessee?
Yes,
Okay, well you always.
in the shadow of the Cumberland Mountain, I mean, Cumberland Plateau.
Oh my God. Okay, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you also have to look at the land and the place too.
You mean in terms of the land having a direct influence on what's happening in your mind while you sleep?
No, I'm speaking of the land having a curse on it itself
Oh, okay.
because of history and the Civil War and everything like that too.
Well, I only grew up
Tennessee,
in a
Tennessee
200-year-old log cabin, so
Exactly right. See that you already admitted was quote unquote haunted as hell.
yep.
So so that would say a lot, and that would bring a lot up in the history and quote unquote the curses not only of the generations but of the land itself. And what's wonderful to me in the whole situation is that you're ending it, man. You're ending it.
All right. I don't mean to be unkind or unpleasant, but
Yeah.
how?
How?
I mean,
Because
it seems like JJ
he
is having as many of these dreams as he ever
no,
has.
but however, he is recognizing the issue.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? He
Consciousness of the fact that it's happening, and
right. He is recognizing the issue, and he is trying to understand the issue, and he can say, okay, now I know why this is happening, so he doesn't have to be quote unquote tormented by it anymore.
I will say this though, I have suffered repercussions from this
I
and
don't doubt that one
health-wise.
bit. I do
I
not
would
doubt
imagine
that.
so.
Yeah.
How so? What repercussions?
Shortly after starting the podcast, I was affected with an illness that could not be identified and went through an unnecessary medical procedure because they thought it was cancer, and it wasn't. Thank the good Lord. And yeah, it finally got to the end of it, but it wasn't because of a diagnosis of a random thing someone told me of, hey, have you looked out for this? And I'm like, no. And sure enough, that's what it was. And but yeah, and that has not been the only occurrence of that. The longer I have done my own podcast, I have faith, and it could be coincidence. I'm not saying it's not. I don't know one way or the other. I have no special gifts of discernment or anything of the sort, but it has definitely come at a price, and I have made sure to protect myself and most importantly my family with every measure that I possibly can, and that has helped a phenomenal amount.
Yeah, I think every single one of us, given what we're doing and how much we talk about this topic, uh, put ourselves at a certain amount of risk because of it.
Yep.
That doesn't surprise me at all, JJ.
Is that you just that was exactly what I was about to say. The reason why he faces these things, and and JJ, please hear me from my heart from what I'm about to say. Okay,
No.
please
I'm
don't.
joking, I'm joking.
Sorry.
Please.
That time's passed, man.
Please, please, for the love of God, do not ever say that you do not have a level of discernment, because you do. I've known it from the first time I spoke with you and never even met with you. So you do have a gift of discernment. And I can truly, one of the very few people in my inner circle that I could call a demonologist.
Well,
So
I appreciate
don't,
that.
don't, please, please don't discount yourself, because you do have that, and it is because of that God is. I'm going to use the words unleashing His Spirit upon you to see these things, even in your podcast. It comes forward because I've been listening to a lot of the old stuff for the past few days, and I can just see it in each and every one of you guys. But these dreams, it's just, I believe it's totally God. That's all I got to say about that one.
After listening to you guys, I feel so incredibly lucky in that a large portion of my dreams are whimsical. You know, where I'm having fun in the dream.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the world's best architect, and I have the world's best materials, and all I have to do is think about a building, and it appears. Or things like I do have some work dreams. Okay, so one time in a dream, I was given the task of changing and updating every piano in the world.
Oh my God.
And so
That's a nightmare to me, man.
The-
Can
the-
you call it easy?
well, no, it was just so weird. I mean, every piano, I had to take the guts of the piano out, put it in this long cylindrical thing, do some mumbo jumbo or something over it, test this piano, and then give it back to the person who owned the piano. And my job was to do every single one in the world. That's a bunch of pianos. I'm assuming that I could never possibly do that, but I remember how much fun it was to pull the guts out of these pianos.
Mm-hmm.
One time I had a dream that I showed up at the branch office of the company I was working for in Dallas, which was run by a guy. His name was Bob. I won't say his last name, but he had a this ancient Chevy Suburban.
Bob Larson.
No, it wasn't Bob Larson. It had the
I'm
ancient,
sorry, guys. I couldn't.
he had this ancient Chevy
I couldn't
Suburban.
help myself.
And so I go up there and I'm like, hi Bob, we're gonna design NICU today. What are we gonna do? He said, well, listen, I need to let you know. We've decided that this medical architecture stuff isn't for us anymore. So FKP is changing, and your job now is to do door-to-door Oriental rug sales. And
And did you enjoy that too?
And the back of his Suburban was just as full as it could possibly be of these, Persian rugs, Asian rugs, Oriental rugs, this kind of thing. It was like, all right, Vic, you got to go out there and you got to go door to door and sell these rugs. And at first I was just really peeved. Look, I've just spent 6 years in college to get this particular degree. Graduate summa cum laude, and I'm selling these stinking rugs. and I guess that was one point where a dream actually was a little bit lucid, in that something in my mind just said, no, look, this is just too ridiculous. Just have fun with it.
There you go.
Now, the thing is, it is true, that old Suburban he had was so underpowered that to get up out of the garage, you had to drive it all the way around to the farthest corner from the ramp. And then you had to slowly accelerate that thing as fast as it would go. And if you got enough speed, you could get up out of the garage. But if not, you'd get about halfway up the ramp and it just rolled back down. And this was in real life. And I can remember in the dream thinking, man, I wonder how much those rugs weigh. So anyway, JJ, I'm really sorry that you have all of these negative dreams. I mean, that bothers me. I really wish you didn't have to experience that.
No, honestly, this is why I 9.9 times out of 10 will turn to watching horror movies rather than almost any other type of genre. It's what I know. It's what I'm
That makes
comfortable
sense.
with.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
So it's not, in the beginning, they were a curse. I was terrified of monsters. Actually, like you, Father Mike, I had to have a nightlight. I had to. And but it wasn't because I was afraid of the monsters. I have always had vision problems.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And I'm legally blind about my time. And I knew that if I went to sleep without a light, then I would wake up blind in the night. And that was my greatest fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to have one. I would throw a screaming fit if I couldn't get one, even if I was over at a friend's house or whoever's house. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting when you mentioned that little fact at the beginning.
That
Well,
makes
listen,
a lot of sense.
I just have to say, I've got two visions in my head now of Vic. The first one is of this guy who's been told to count every grain of sand in the world. And at every one, he's going, oh, well, that's a pretty one. Oh, that's a really neat one. Oh, look at this one.
Might as well enjoy your work, man.
Exactly. And the second, I don't know if you ever read the Far Side comic,
Oh, yeah.
but one of my favorite ones, I used to have this hanging up in my cubicle in my office, was they're in hell. And there's this guy pushing this wheelbarrow, and he's just whistling along. And the demon's like, we're just not getting to this guy.
We're just not getting to this guy. Right. This guy doesn't get it. I remember that cartoon.
Yeah, it was a good one. That seems like Vic in a nutshell. So
My favorite
one thing.
Far Side.
Oh,
I'm going to interrupt you because I don't want to
okay,
lose
go
it.
ahead.
My
Go
favorite
ahead.
Far Side was the one where you've got these two anthropomorphic deer standing in the forest, and one of them has a target, perfect target on its chest, and the other one says, "Man, that's a bummer of a birthmark, Hal."
I remember.
I had that one too.
That's cool.
All right, sorry about that.
I
No.
still love the one where it's the little boy who's pushing against the door that says "pull," and then with the sign of "School for the Gifted."
Gifted
School for the
children or something.
gifted.
Yeah, school for the gifted.
That's funny. That's funny. That's hilarious. No, but I want Josh. Josh had something that he wanted to share tonight as well, and you guys have heard me say many times if the scriptures are not clear, if the Holy Spirit does not speak, then we turn to the church fathers, and Josh has just two simple statements from the church fathers about dreams, and I would love to hear your guys' reaction to that. So I'm gonna turn it over to Josh for just a second.
All right, so these are two paragraphs from St. Thomas Aquinas on dreams.
He's coming through pretty well, yeah.
Okay, good.
All right. First paragraph is: the inward cause of dreams is twofold. One regards the soul insofar as those things which have occupied a man's thoughts and affections while awake recur to his imagination while asleep. A such like cause of dreams is not a cause of future occurrences, so that dreams of this kind are related accidentally to future occurrences. And if at any time they concur, it will be by chance. The next says, in a like manner, the outward cause of dreams are twofold, corporeal and spiritual. It is corporeal insofar as the sleeper's imagination is affected by either the surrounding air or through an impression of a heavenly body, so that certain images appear to the sleeper, in keeping with disposition of the heavenly bodies. The spiritual cause is sometimes preferable to God, who reveals certain things to men in their dreams by the ministry of the angels, according to Numbers chapter 12, verse 6. If there be any among you a prophet of the Lord, I will appear to him in a vision, or I will speak to him in a dream. Sometimes, however, it is due to the action of demons that certain images appear to persons in their sleep, and by this means they at times reveal certain future things to those who have entered into an unlawful pact with them.
And see what that tells me is everything that Josh just read kind of backs up every blooming thing that we've talked about tonight. That dreams sometimes can be for a reason of instruction, of warning, of correction, you name it. And that's one thing that I want to portray to our listeners as well.
Josh, what is the can you send us the source of that?
Yes, I can. It's from the Summa Theologica, second part of the second part, question 95, article 6 response. I'll link it to y'all.
So, when you set aside the generic dreams, your mind working through stuff, you set aside the nightmares that are fears in your life, right? Stuff you're worried about and so on. It kind of boils down to a couple of different types of dreams that we've talked about tonight. One that we haven't, but you have one which Vic described with his father and his mother, right? After they passed. One was comforting, one was not. I had a similar one with my grandmother. My grandmother died of emphysema. And it was very, very hard at the end. And I always had that image in my mind of that ending. And it wasn't until about 10 years later, out of the blue, I had this dream of her, and it was a very calming, I'm okay dream. And I felt better from it. It was clearly to me a dream that was meant to soothe me on, or however you would say it, had to make me feel better about her, where she was. But you have that kind of like a relative type dream. And then you've talked about spiritual influence. Perhaps it's a warning, perhaps it's to help you work through something.
Right.
But we haven't really talked about the demonic aspect of it. Right? So, and I just heard this on a podcast. I sent you a link,
Yeah.
a podcast today, and I forget the scripture quote. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it was where we can be deceived, misled by our dreams that are influenced by the demonic.
Mm-hmm.
And what are your thoughts around those?
Well, first I have to say that you're absolutely correct. The enemy of our souls will try to influence us in our sleep as well, because you have to admit that is when you're at your most weakest point, so to speak. And that is when, if we have dreams that are not unclear, that we have to depend on Holy Spirit to give us that gift of discernment, to realize, is this a demonic thing or a God thing? To me personally, I have to break it down into Scripture, and knowing that the fact that every good gift is given by God and from the Father of lights, whether it be dream or whatever. If it is harming the race of man in which God has created us, I have to count it as a warning or something demonic. There's been times where I personally have had dreams of a giant python squeezing myself, or squeezing a group of people. And I know enough of theology, and I'd like to hear JJ's talk on this as well, but this python would be squeezing us, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that would be a warning of a demonic attack coming forward. The point is when it comes to dreams, in my opinion, there's always a defining moment, whether it is good or whether it's evil. And one just has to discern which one it is. If it brings life, it is probably God. If it brings death, it is probably the enemy. And the reason why I say that is because God tells us in the scriptures, today I set before you life and death, and blessings and cursings. And so I believe that there's a definite line there, and that is the reason why we should not take certain dreams lightly, because it very well could save our life, in my opinion. But what are you saying here, Josh? Divinations and omens and dreams are folly. And like a woman in travail, the mind has fancies. Unless they are sent from the Most High as a visitation, do not give your mind to them, for dreams have deceived many, and those who have put their hope in them have failed. And see, that means to us that we have to understand the importance of dreams. Is it a fleeting thought, or is it divine inspiration?
And see, this is, I guess, part of where I don't put any stock in dreams as far as decisions that I make.
Okay.
I like the fact that sometimes they help me recognize something in my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that I'm under stress. But that's a realization that has no bearing other than, well, now I recognize something that's there, right? It's not like it's saying, oh, what you need to do is go buy a new house or, get that new Porsche or sell all your stuff and go on a walkabout.
Well, see, that's the
Right.
very reason why Hosea said in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, that my people are being destroyed for a lack of knowledge,
Mhm.
because sometimes people do stupid things.
Yes, they do.
So,
Well, and so you talk about discernment and being able to discern what your dream's about. But if you talk to the vast numbers of people out there who have no spiritual, at least traditional religious beliefs, then they read a book that says, here's how to interpret your dreams, and they're off to the races. Now, how do they discern? How do they tell if that dream that they interpret as, you need to end this relationship that you're in because it's bad, because they saw a dream with their husband with a raven on his shoulder or something. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up, right? And they're, oh, this relationship's gone bad. I need to get away from it. How are they supposed to tell? How are they supposed to discern what that dream is, whether it's good or bad? Because it's not like you can tell in most dreams whether it's evil or not.
well, me personally, I believe wherever we are in our relationship with God, whether we're weak or whether we believe we're on the same page and strong and think we're better than everybody. I believe that God is going to give us some type of wisdom, regardless. I don't care if you've been a quote unquote Christian for 40 years or if you're barely a believer. God still loves us, and He's going to treat us all the same. And when it comes to things like this, I believe that He is going to love us so much that He's going to give us wisdom, understanding, and discernment in every situation of our life. The only thing that we have to do is listen. And that's one of the reasons why I love the passage from the prophet Zephaniah so much, where he says, be silent in the presence of the Lord. Well, sometimes the reason why He wants us to be silent is because we can shut up and listen. And sometimes in our sleep may be the only time that God can speak to us. And I mean, even yourself, Dave, you said that you don't think that you ever received any divine revelation. Well, I think you may have.
Well,
But,
I'm not saying that I haven't. No, I
yeah.
wouldn't say that. I'm just saying that the majority of my dreams aren't like that,
Yeah.
and they certainly
Well,
don't
that's-
come out as something clear, like, "Hey, here's a direction you need to take."
Yeah, now see, that's a whole nother subject, because some people are given to dreams and some are not. Some are called to be prophets, some are not. Some are called to be apostles, some are not. Evangelists, pastors, and teachers. Some are called to be those things, some are not. Some are called to be toilet bowl cleaners, and they do a damn good job, but they're still part of the kingdom. See what I'm saying? That it's just sometimes we just got to step back, so to speak, and do what we're doing tonight and take a look at the big picture and discuss it out like we're doing right now for the good of everybody, so that we all get a better understanding. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, for my first episode, this is freaking awesome to me. I love it. I love the conversation. But, however, I do want to hear some of JJ's final thoughts.
In terms of what specifically?
Well, specifically, I want you to finish up your story, and then I want you to just share your own thoughts.
Sure. So there's one dream that has had a major effect on me that I did not detail. And I think most of the people here know it already. But in case you have listeners who do not, I'll go ahead and recount it briefly. And it was my dream while I was in Japan living there.
That's it. Yep.
And I lived in a small furnished apartment that my company paid for. It was about 400 square foot, but it had a huge balcony. And the balcony, you had a clear shot of Tokyo Tower, and it was beautiful. In fact, I think the balcony itself was larger than the apartment inside. But I was up late working one night because I slaved away at that job in Tokyo, as most Japanese do. And I had fallen asleep on my bed, and it was probably around about 5 a.m. in the morning or so. And I dreamed of a thing outside of the balcony doors that was screaming to get in. And all it would say is, Haidu, Haidu, Haidu. But I never heard the sound with my ears. Instead, and I want you to, if you can, remember back to what I said, that even when I have died in dreams, I never felt any sensation. There's never pain. I felt pain with this thing.
What?
Every time it opened its mouth, it was like someone had jabbed a hot white needle into the middle of my brain. It was awful, and I've never felt anything like it before or since, and I hope to goodness I never do.
Well, see, I would not call that a dream, but a demonic attack.
Well, and so this is the thing that leads to a little bit more credence. I woke up to my earthquake alarm going off on my phone because that's a standard feature in most mobile devices in Japan because they're so prevalent. Because I was there shortly after 3/11, which is when Fukushima Daiichi had all the issues, etc. Well, I remembered the word that this thing was saying. And I ran to my dictionary and I looked it up. And sure enough, Haidu is the infinitive, well, what passes for infinitive form in Japanese of to enter. I did not know that word at all. And suddenly I heard this thing saying, let me in, let me in. And that scared the ever living crap out of me. And so even though I chase horror movies and love horror movies, I was watching TikTok, scrolling through TikTok one day, just enjoying it. And there's this particular Japanese horror creator who does some pretty decent stuff. I've enjoyed a lot of their work. But it depicted something that was the closest I have ever seen visually done that represented what I had experienced. And it scared me so badly that I almost threw my phone across the room because I was petrified. And when I showed my wife, because I'm like, you've got to see this, I did drop my phone whenever it said Hairuyo, Hairuyo. And it was almost verbatim, this thing saying what I experienced. And yeah, it was not the most comfortable of experiences, I'll put it that. So, no, I do not think that was a dream at all. And I will tell you this, the Japanese have a very firm belief that you should never walk near graveyards. Well, right outside of my balcony was a graveyard in the heart of Tokyo.
gracious.
And I used to walk by that thing all the time. Never after that, I didn't. Like, nope, And I had purified salt on hand right after that fact, too. But in general, I guess my kind of closing thoughts on the matter. I think that most dreams are just the mind either purging information or maybe entertaining itself. I like the way that Dave said that. But I think that they can speak to the sacred or they can speak to the infernal. And to ignore either one of those things is much to your own peril as it is to others.
I agree. David?
Yeah, I think I follow along those same lines. It's one of those things where you get impressions from dreams sometimes that are much more meaningful. I definitely have had dreams. Well, we talked about one the other day,
Mm-hmm.
right? I woke up and
Mm-hmm.
that dream I had that I mean, it was out of the blue. Everybody, I was being sued by somebody and I had no idea why or who it was, and it was I was going back through my past, all the way back into high school, trying to figure out who this person was. And then this attorney came out of nowhere and was just like, "I've got you. Um, this is what I do." And that was an intense dream. And I haven't had an intense dream like that in probably years. I mean, they are very rare that I have a dream that is that emotionally intense when I'm done and when I wake up. And those are the ones that I remember. I think they exist. I think they have meaning. You know, uh, I don't know what the meaning of that is. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I can get some sort of impression out of what it sort of means. But I think there are meaningful dreams that are beyond just the mechanical workings of the brain. And of course, I mean, I've
I
had
agree.
the nightmarish stuff that's not dreams, but I don't put that in that classification of dreams. I do think those are, the demonic attacks.
Speaking of that, there was one thing that we left off, and I have no clue firsthand, except maybe the dream that I had about that, whatever it was, when I was 7, 8 years old. But sometimes people will talk about having dreams and have sleep
Paralysis.
paralysis. Yeah.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any
Once ag-
ideas on that?
well, once again, it's not something I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me
I
neither.
haven't either. I've never had sleep paralysis. I'm very glad of that. I was actually just speaking over, so I was the guest on a particular podcast, and one of the members was actually claiming that they have had sleep paralysis a slew of times. And that was really surprising to me. And if you've had listeners that have not watched it, there is a really disturbing documentary on the topic called The Nightmare.
Okay.
And these people are, it interviews like quite a few people, but there are really like three main ones that it keeps going back to. And there's something wrong with them. Like, they are highly disturbed. You can tell that they are not getting quality sleep and have not for the vast majority of their lives. And you can see it in their eyes. And it is, whether you accept the kind of conclusions that each one is trying to bring you down, it is disturbing, to say the least.
Uh, uh, Vic, I would like for us to put the conversation that JJ just spoke of, kind of like in our notes,
Mhm.
and give the links for it, because that sounds kind of interesting. Because when it comes to sleep paralysis, that, in my opinion, in my experience as well, is totally demonic, and I believe very dangerous. And that's something that I think that needs to be watched out for. Because remember what I said, that when we're asleep, that's when we're at our weak point.
Mhm.
And if people are experiencing things like that, that is, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, I would first say that that is the first sign of demonic oppression. And
So I did a fair amount of research into this when my attacks happened. So
uh huh.
each of the demonic attacks that happened against me at night
Mm-hmm.
started with sleep paralysis.
Wow. Okay.
So we're talking somewhere between 7 and 9 events over a period of about a year and a half to
Really?
2 years. And in each of them, I woke up during the attack, was being attacked by a massive, darker than black shadow figure that was, 7, 8 feet tall. And each of the attacks I started out, I was paralyzed. And then over time was able to move, but the attack didn't stop. And then like I say, in 2 cases, I physically interacted with this thing. And when those things happened, when they were over, I did not wake up. So I don't put these in the night terror event, type of thing. Now, when looking at it, there is sleep paralysis that doesn't necessarily involve that. In fact, most cases of sleep paralysis, when they're described, the person experiencing the paralysis wakes up feeling pressure and weight on their chest.
Correct. There's a pretty famous painting of nightmare sitting on a woman's chest.
Right. Right. The night hag or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
I don't know I don't know whose painting that is.
So it's common, whether there's a night terror involved with it or not, when you have the paralysis, to feel weight on your chest. That did not happen with me at all. Well, except once, but even then it didn't feel like weight. It was just on top of me trying to mess with me.
Yeah.
But so I think there are states that they've come up with some pretty good explanations for, where the brain is coming out of sleep and you have a certain amount of this chemical in your body that keeps you from moving, and it takes a moment for your body to wake up and be able to regain that motion. I don't think that all of those things are demonic. I think that there are some that it's just a natural cause. I mean, you would have to interview and like really look into somebody's life to see if there was any reason that they might be experiencing this. But a lot of people that get it, it just happens a couple of times and then it's done.
Right.
Right. And they don't experience it again. So yeah, I think it can very well be demonic. I know, there's more to my experiences than just the dreams. So I know that it was demonic attacks, but I don't think that all of them are.
Right.
Can I reverse things and sort of take things in a pleasant direction?
Go.
Definitely.
Okay. Has anybody here read Dylan Thomas's book, very short book, A Child's Christmas in Wales?
No.
Okay. It's a story about his growing up in Wales and the Christmases he had and the presents and the fun and the hijinks and this kind of thing. And, of course, it's Dylan Thomas, so it's just beautiful, beautiful prose. So I'm going to read one paragraph. One Christmas was so much like the other in those years around the Seatown corner now, out of all sound except the distant speaking of the voices I sometimes hear a moment before sleep, that I can never remember whether it snowed for 6 days and 6 nights when I was 12, or whether it snowed for 12 days and 12 nights when I was 6. Now, the important part of that paragraph is the voices I sometimes hear a moment before sleep. As my body is relaxing and my brain is letting go of the consciousness of the day, it's like a cacophony of people talking in my head. And this has happened since I was a child. It happens actually a little less now than it used to, and I kind of miss it. It's never been anything negative or bad. A lot of times, I think it's just my brain remembering things I heard on TV that day, or stuff I read and I've turned into words. But sometimes there does seem to be kind of intent in those voices, those words that I hear when I'm going to sleep. I've never talked about this before. Does anybody else here experience that prior to drifting off?
I don't experience voices, but I do know that state you're talking about, because that just before you fall into sleep state, I will, as soon as I hit it, remember the dreams that I had the night before.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll just be like, oh yeah, that's what I was dreaming about last night.
It's kind of like they're waiting there filed away for you to get into the right state to be able to read the file.
To get into the right state to, exactly. But I think it is something about that moment when your brain hits that I've let go of the world around me, but I'm not in deep sleep, that you're open to whatever occurs there.
Now, see, that's very interesting to me. I've never heard of that. A day or two afterwards, be able to go right back into a dream. That's phenomenal to me.
I don't go back into that dream again.
But you
Right?
remember
That's
it.
not.
Yeah.
You
but
just
it's,
remember it.
But it's just like a veil has been removed, and I go, oh yeah, that's where I was last night. You know. I it's sort of like that whole. You hear of people if they study high or drunk, right? They can't take the test unless they're high or drunk. Their brain
Right.
has to be in the same frame of mind that it was when they studied and ingested the information.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard that. It's that sort of same kind of thing. It's like dreams. Let's say they're at a certain frequency, and you have to hit that frequency in your brain to let them in again.
Wow. Now, before we end, I got to bring up a crazy dream. Someone mentioned Twilight Zone not too long ago.
I did.
Okay. Do you guys remember the episode of Twilight Zone to where throughout the whole show they wore a mask?
Yep.
And then at the end they took the mask off and their face has
Assumed
contorted.
the shape of the mask.
That freaked me out.
Oh, that was one of the most well-known episodes, yeah, along with Beauty is in the Eye of the Beholder. But my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, by and far, are the ones about the devil.
Yeah.
There were quite a few of those, but have you ever seen the one that had the actor that played Roscoe Pico Train in Dukes of Hazzard?
I remember the actor.
I want to say
I've
yes.
seen it. Yeah.
I know for a fact that I've seen it because I've seen every one of them, but I don't remember what it was about.
Oh, so this man, he's I think he's the sheriff of a town. But anyway,
And he's the only one left?
No. He
Okay.
dies young,
Okay.
and he has a fiance who is grieving. But then all of a sudden, he comes back. And everyone is convinced that, oh my gosh, he must have made a deal with the devil. And they're all terrified of him. And he finally, at the very end of the episode, convinces his fiancee that, no, I am here. There's nothing evil about me. I'm just me again. And he then wraps his arm around her, and they're walking away. And then he looks back in the camera, and he has either a cigar or a pipe or something in his mouth. And then he flicks a finger, and fire erupts from the
Yeah.
very end
Yeah.
of it. He lights
Yeah.
it.
Nice.
Yeah, there's that one. There are several of the devil. There's one
Oh,
where
I know.
there's one of a newspaper printer.
Oh, that's a fantastic one.
What's the one where? Oh my God, I'm trying to remember. This guy, he finds himself alone in this like kind of a ghost town, but then come to find out that there's a whole community of like teenagers. It reminded me of Children of the Corn.
Well, there's a Star Trek episode like that. I mean, the Grups.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember the Twilight Zone episode of Captain Kirk saying, "There's something on the plane."
Something on the plane.
Yeah.
In the wing.
Yeah, but this one was, they were. Well, I may be thinking of a Star Trek episode. Yes, that's exactly
I
what
think
I'm
you're thinking.
of.
I think you're
I
thinking
am.
of the. I think the episode's called Miri.
That's
And it's Kim Darby playing Miri, and she's just once you get to a certain age, then you get some kind of plague or something.
that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. That's what I was thinking of.
And it's got the guy in there who's just, man, I hate to say it, but man, he's one of the ugliest guys on the face of the earth.
Hello.
But he ends up playing a lot of really good parts where they need somebody with distinctive looks.
Right.
My favorite Twilight Zone episodes are all about innocence.
I hope you're saving this for basement talk, right?
Oh yeah, everything's
Okay.
being
All
recorded.
right, all right.
Yeah, everything's being recorded. But there's one called Dust, okay, where a man is going to be hanged, and it's beautifully done. It's atmospheric and sad, and there's this there's dust everywhere. It's this old western town, and this charlatan comes through, and he sells a little boy a bottle of magic water or something. If you can sprinkle the magic water on the rope, then when they go to hang your dad, then the rope will break or something like that. And the little boy believes him. And the charlatan is, not at all concerned that he's fooled this little boy. But that's what happens is the rope breaks. And so it kind of comes across as the innocence of the little boy is what saved this man. And they kind of get the idea across that he really didn't do whatever they said he did. I got to go back and watch that one again. Then
Well-
there's one where this old man is out hunting with his dog, and he falls into a river, hits his head or something. He and the dog both die. And then you see them walking down this country road,
Yes.
and they get to this one place, and they come out and they say, "Caleb, gosh, we're really glad to see you. We've been waiting for you. Why don't you come on in? We're having barbecue today or whatever." And he says, "Well, okay, I guess I'm glad to get to heaven. I got to bring my dog Duke with me. Oh, we
There
can't
you
let
go.
we can't let Duke in. We can't be any dogs in heaven." And Duke is smelling something, which of course is the brimstone or whatever. and so the old man says, "Well, if I can't bring Duke in, I'm not going in either." And of course he continues down the road, and then he finds the real heaven, and they're happy to have Duke.
That's funny.
Yeah, the thing that, and I think I've said this before, but the thing that has always impressed me about the Twilight Zone is the fact that it was never a one-trick pony. And that's
Exactly.
something that modern retellings or, readaptions have always failed horribly at. You'll have some that are, thought-provoking, some that are lighthearted, but a lot of them have a good bit of comedy mixed into it. And that is just what makes that series shine. It was not
Yeah.
afraid to pull punches, but it wasn't afraid to make you laugh either.
Wasn't afraid to make you laugh. It wasn't afraid to really talk about the fact that there are in the world some genuinely evil people.
Yes.
True. Exactly right. I agree.
Well, back on the dream stuff, Father Mike,
Yes, sir.
I'm curious what you think your flying dream means. Because that actually probably should be a category of its own, is flying dreams. Enough people have them.
You are. I think
Well, and
you're right.
reoccurring dreams too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely need to have an episode about that because in about the flying and the reoccurring, kind of combine it together. But I have been trying to figure that out myself for the longest time. How I could just be. I'm standing there in the dream, and the only thing that I can ever remember of the dream is being confronted and accused of a lot of different people. I don't remember anything about it. I just know that's what was happening. And then all of a sudden, I just start lifting up and flying away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end of it.
They started 6 months ago?
Uh, 6 months to 8 months ago. And sometimes I can even remember where I'm flying to. And sometimes it's like I'm just flying to escape and don't know where I'm going to. And then I wake up and that's it.
And when you remember where you're going to, is it always the same place?
No, but it's a familiar place.
So it does vary then. There are
Yes.
some differences.
There's some variations there to where sometimes I know where I am and sometimes I don't have a clue where I am.
What about the people that are accusing you at the beginning?
They're just shouting hating stuff at me.
I mean, is it always the same accusations? Is it always the same beginning?
Yeah. It's well to make it very clear for you, it's about me proclaiming the gospel versus the attitude of today.
Okay.
And I'm being derailed and attacked for taking a stance on the demonic. And so it goes from there, and they're, oh, well, this isn't demonic. Well, we know it is, but it's the whole thing about it is me speaking against the demonic in the dream, and then people coming to rail against me because of what I'm speaking against. And then all of a sudden I fly away. And I don't know what that means.
And so you said you get, you have some discernment about dreams sometimes. Do you
I
feel
do.
like this is a spiritual message for you?
Yes, I do. But I got to be honest with you. I'm waiting on an answer.
Because
Because I know what I'm doing and what Josh is helping me do and what you guys are helping me do is of God. And I know that God is using each one of us together corporately to combat evil. I know that God is using each and every one of us to give answers. I mean, why in the hell would, excuse me, my language, why in the world would someone call JJ today and say thank you and have a long conversation? But there's always going to be an attack, so to speak. And we never know that source of attack. And I'm not saying the dream is an attack. I'm just saying that I'm being attacked in the dream by malicious thoughts and words. And then all of a sudden I just fly away. Maybe it's God telling me not to worry about it. Just go away. Who knows? But it's been the only thing that gets me is it's been a very reoccurring dream. I would say I have this dream at least 3 times a week for the past 8 months.
Well, in my dream, when we talked about it in more detail,
Right.
you said that attorney at the end was Jesus.
Correct.
And he was saying, I've got your back. Right?
All right, now you're spanking me, so you can.
So how is this different?
There is no
this
difference.
is-
There is no
This
difference.
is God saying,
I got
you're
your
safe.
back.
"I
Yeah.
got your back.
Uh,
You can fly away from this. It's not gonna hurt you."
Thank you, Dave. You just spanked my rear end.
Well, I'm always around.
That's
You
right.
just let me know.
That's right. No, you are 100% correct in that. And my God, that's very eye-opening, Dave.
Well, I would be just fine if we didn't use the word spanking a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Oh my God, Vic. No, you didn't. Oh,
We're
my
not
God.
talking about spanking dreams, Vic.
Wrong.
That is not this
Wrong
podcast.
type of dreams, Vic. Oh, JJ, you
God,
still alive out there? Okay.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I'm fading fast.
I
I'm
am
fading
too.
fast too. Josh, I'll get these files to you tomorrow, and I'll let them download. So, all right, gentlemen, I'm gonna hand it off. Father Birdsong, do you have anything you want to say as the host ending your first podcast?
Well, I just appreciate you guys joining me, and I don't mean to continue to be a dead horse, but it just means a lot to me that you guys have joined me and we're doing what we're doing. It really means a lot to me.
Well, thank you. I think what you're doing is important, and that's why I'm here. I think, and I'm assuming everybody else is the same way.
And that's
Yeah.
what it's all about.
So,
And it means a lot to me that you asked us to be here, so wouldn't
agreed.
miss
Oh,
it
yeah.
for the world.
so
Absolutely.
okay. End button being pushed. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Take
See
care,
ya.
guys.
Y'all.
Take care.
Night.
All right. Bye-bye.